There's no white man in America who should ever tell anybody black what resilience looks like.
This is what black people look like. It could represent black fraternities, sororities, black churches. And what you will notice about these beautiful, educated, and money black people is that everybody's doing their own thing. Caught up in a Eurocentric value of rugged individualism, survival of the fittest. It's a trick. There is no power here, brothers and sisters. Willie Lynch understood this. This is where all the power is. Whether you're at the center of your own network or part of other networks, this is where all the power is. There's a beautiful African proverb that says that when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion.
You know, the world was told that black Americans survived because of help. But that's not the truth. Black Americans survived in spite of being denied the survival. You know, one of the most persistent lies told globally is that black Americans are dependent, that black Americans are beneficiaries rather than builders. Black Americans only progressed because of outside assistance, you know. But that lie ends today. Because across the media, across the academia, politics, and even diaspora conversation, black Americans are often framed through one lens: dependency, you know, through welfare, handouts, affirmative action, government assistance. But this framing is intellectually dishonest because it deliberately ignores the conditions under which black Americans communities were forced to operate. Self-reliance was not a choice. It was survival requirement. Now, let's watch this clip first, and then we come back with more commentary. And for those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Let's share these videos if you feel it is of importance to you. Let's watch these clips.
I want to talk to you about black African Americans and an analogy to a lion. A tale of courage, bravery, strength, and unwavering perseverance. A tale that is embodied by none other than the majestic king of the jungle, the lion. Imagine for a moment the vast expanse of the wild savanna where the lion roams as the unrivaled monarch. What is it that makes the lion truly stand out, capturing our imagination and symbolizing the epitome of power? It's courage that defines the lion, a courage that roars in the face of challenges. When the lion hunts, it doesn't merely rely on its physical prowess, but on a fearless heart that dares to confront the unknown. Just like the lion, we too encounter obstacles in our lives, and it's our courage that empowers us to face them head on. Bravery courses through the veins of the lion, a bravery that leads it to protect its pride, to defend its territory against all odds. In the same way, we are called to be brave guardians of our dreams, valiantly standing up for what we believe in, regardless of the trials that may come our way. Strength, the lion's strength is unparalleled. It's in the sinew of its muscles, the majesty of its mane, and the dominance of its presence. But let us not forget that true strength, the strength that matters most, is the strength of character. The lion teaches us that our inner fortitude, our resilience, is what truly propels us forward, even when the storm of life rage around us. And then there's perseverance, a quality that the lion embodies to its very core. In the relentless pursuit of prey, the lion may fail time and again, yet it rises with even greater determination. It's a reminder that setbacks are not the end, but merely stepping stones towards success. Our journey, like the lion's, is a testament to the fact that endurance and persistence are the keys to unlock our fullest potential. As we look upon the lion, the king of the jungle, let us not only see a magnificent creature, but also a mirror reflecting our own capacity for greatness. Just as the lion's courage, bravery, strength, and perseverance have shaped its destiny, so too can these qualities shape our own. So let us march forward, unafraid of the challenges that lie ahead, brave in the face of adversity, strong in character, and unwavering in our pursuit of excellence. Let us channel the spirit of the lion as we reign over our own lives, our own jungles of dreams and aspirations. Remember, like the lion, you are destined for greatness. The jungle of life may be wild and unpredictable, but armed with courage, fueled with bravery, fortified by strength, and guided by perseverance, you can conquer any terrain and claim your right place as the ruler of your own destiny. Black African Americans are like lions. They will prevail in the end, like a lion. God bless. Joe Bruno, White Response Project.
You would think that black people have made financial progress over the last 160 years. But I have some news for you. We haven't. Yes, we have black billionaires now, like Robert Smith, Dave Stewart, Oprah, Michael Jordan, and they're killing it, man. And yes, the black middle class has also grown, but probably not in the ways that you think. You see, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863, listen to this, the black community owned 0.5% of the wealth in the U.S. By the way, that is 0.5% of the wealth in the United States, which ain't a lot. Now, because slaves couldn't own anything, that's not surprising because black people, we didn't even have the opportunity to accumulate wealth back then. But you want to know something mind-blowing? Today, more than 160 years later, the percentage of wealth that black people own in the United States is, guess what? Guess how much? 1%. It has barely budged. So right now, today, black people only own about 1% of the total wealth in the United States. So it may seem like we've come a long way, and a select few really have. But collectively, we have barely moved the needle.
They underestimate our ability to start over. That's what the problem is. They don't know that we will pick up where we left off and we will start over. What did Aaliyah say? If at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. Nobody knows how to do that better than black Americans. Nobody knows how to start from nothing when you had something. We do. We know how to do that. We've been kicked down so many times before. First they gave us 40 acres and a mule. Took it back. Had to start over. Then we built up our own Rosewood, Tulsa, burnt that down. Got to start over. There's so many times that we have had to start over that we know how to do it. That's one thing we know how to do. And they underestimate our ability to start over. They think that taking all these black women out of these jobs, there's 350,000 black women, of which I am one. They think I ain't going to start over. I'm just going to start over. They underestimate our ability to do it again. And this time we'll do it better because we have the knowledge and the experience that we didn't have last time. That's why we don't get bitter. We just get better. And they always think that we're going to react in the way that they would. You see? Do you see how they out there in DC and ain't nobody doing nothing? They think that we going to react in the way that they would if this was happening to them. But we never do. Because every single time they knock us down, we get up better. And they keep underestimating that. Oh, well, you know.
Let's take a moment to talk about black people. Specifically, the black family in America during the 50s and 60s. Did you know that before 1960, that was when the black family was the strongest? And that was when poverty was far worse and racism was far worse. And also throughout the first half of the century, the majority of black women were married before they had children. And did you know that the Revolutionary War provided a road to freedom for a lot of enslaved black families? And after the war, a lot of these newly found free people stayed in the US, and that's what helped the population of the black community boom in some states. And then we fast forward to the Civil War, which paved the way for the emancipation, which led to the freedom of enslaved families, giving all black people the same legal status. And for the first 12 years after the Civil War, from 1865 to 1877, it's called the Reconstruction era. During that era, the economic progress, it was booming. They were building schools and churches, and they were focusing on black education. And during this era, black people experienced higher employment rates and lower teen unemployment rates than whites. When it came to the family dynamic, a very high percentage of the black families were intact and were strong. The black community not only supported marriage and family life, it encouraged it. And when it came to the black community as a whole, despite segregation, they still came together and built institutions like black-owned schools, black-owned colleges, and it created a pillar of strength in the community. So with all of that being said, the point I'm trying to make is that back when segregation and racism were at an all-time high, that is when the black family in America was thriving. So I cannot stand when I see black people using this victim card or this woe is me card talking about our ancestors went through all this and blah, blah, blah. Our ancestors went through what they went through so that you and I could have the opportunities that we have now as black people. Not too long after they found their freedom, what did they use their freedom for? To contribute to society, to work, to start families, to continue growing the community. So how dare you in 2025, as a black person, try to use the victim card? It's pathetic.
So I came across this post today that said 1 out of 20 black American households are now millionaires. And it made me smile because I said, man, we finally breaking through. We finally seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. And I see this for myself and my family as well. I want to add myself and my family into that 1 out of 20 as well, sooner than later, right? It also had me thinking, like, what is some of the biggest barriers that we face in our community that we are doing to ourselves? Now, there's a whole host of things that the system does to us, but what are we doing to ourselves that we can try to reverse and take ownership of to propel ourselves and our family into wealth, right? And the first thing that comes to mind is managing our debt. We as Americans as a whole love debt. We love charging something. We love payments. We love, Klarna was the worst thing to happen to us. But black Americans specifically, we feel like we got a point to prove. We always need the new car. We always need the designer clothes. And shoes. We always need the vacations. We always need to be posting and sharing a life of luxury, even if we haven't earned it yet. We feel like a lot of us just feel like we gotta showcase that, right? Which puts us in a massive amount of debt. And it's one thing I've learned as someone who is big on debt payoff and building wealth and investing, is that it's really hard to invest when you don't have no money at the end of the month, because you're giving it all away back to the credit card company, back to the personal loan company, back to the bank, back to the auto loan company, back to the, you know what I'm saying, back to the student loan company. Like, we have to prioritize paying down debt. So I bring this all up to say, I actually want to show y'all how much debt I have right now. As someone who is black, American, a family of 4, I have an 820 credit score, and I'm gonna show y'all exactly what my debt profile looks like from Experian right now. So here it is. I have $365,000 of debt. As you see here on the breakdown, 321,000 of that 365 is real estate, and that is the debt for 2 properties. One property that I personally own and live in is I owe $130,000 on, the house that I'm currently recording this video in. I owe $130,000 on this house. This house was bought in 2019, and I owe $190,000 on a rental property that was purchased in 2021. So that's the only real estate debt that I have. And actually the debt that I have on the mortgage of the rental property not only makes enough money from the tenants to pay for itself, its own mortgage, but it also makes enough money to pay for the personal residence that I currently live in as well. So I'm pretty much at a net zero every single month in regards to my living expenses and the debt that's being serviced for that 321,000 or so. The other 44 roughly thousand, it says credit lines and credit cards. I actually don't have any credit card debt. I don't have any automobile debt. I don't have any personal loan debt. I don't have any student loan debt either. None of that stuff. That 44,000 is actually a HELOC that I took out 2.5 years ago on my personal residence to do a 6-figure addition on our home. We've paid it down to around 44,000 so far. That's the only thing left. So even though it says credit cards and credit lines, they just group those together, but it actually is just a second mortgage on my primary residence. So really, I only have real estate debt. I don't have any other type of debt, right? And what that allows me to do is have money left over every single month to invest. If I had car notes, if I had credit card debt that I was paying every month, if I had personal loan debt, if I had student loans that I was paying every month, it would make it significantly harder to put money aside and invest for my future and get us into that $1 million status, that 1 out of 20, right? And I noticed from just talking to people for years and years about money, the main thing that's holding them back is debt. It's not that they don't know how to invest. It's not that they don't want to invest. They literally can't because they make $6,000 a month and $5,800 goes to bills. So when you manage your debt properly, not only will your credit score benefit from it, but you'll actually have money left over to take ownership of your future.
Welcome back. Now, Black American self-reliance did not emerge from comfort. It emerged from systematic exclusion. Okay? Excluded from land ownership. They were excluded from capital. They were excluded from education. They were excluded from labor protections. They were excluded from political participation. And yet black people still build. And this is critical because self-reliance developed not because the system allowed it, but because the system denied everything else. Even under enslavement, black Americans built agriculture systems. Under enslavement, black Americans mastered, engineered, and mechanics. Black Americans developed healing knowledge. They created spiritual frameworks. They preserved African communal values. Enslaved Africans were not passive laborers. They were unpaid architects of an economy. And self-reliance was embedded before freedom. Okay? After slavery, black Americans did something extraordinary. With no land grants, no reparations, no institutional protections, they immediately built schools, they built churches, they built trade networks, newspapers, towns. And this wasn't dependency, this was collective economic intelligence. Now, when you look at the Tulsa, look at the Rosewood, you look at the Wilmington, these were not anomalies. They were proof of what happens when black self-reliance is allowed to breathe. And if you notice something here, these communities were not destroyed because they failed. They were destroyed because they succeeded too well. They succeeded too well. Self-reliance became a threat. Okay? And here's where many analyses fail. Black American self-reliance is not only economics. It is spiritual. It is rooted in faith under terror, in hope under exclusion, in discipline without reward, in dignity without validation. And the black church, for all its flaws, it functions as a bank, as a school, as a political headquarters, as a counseling center. Okay? Spiritual self-reliance sustained material survival. You get that? A self-reliant population cannot be easily controlled. And that is the truth. When black Americans educate themselves, when black Americans build their own institutions, when black Americans circulate their own dollars, when black Americans define their own narrative, they become ungovernable by deceptions. And this is why narratives of dependency must be constantly reinforced. Okay? Let us debunk the welfare myth, because that's a myth. That's a myth. Most welfare programs, it excluded black Americans initially. Most welfare programs were accessed just later due to economic sabotage and never compensated for generation theft. Welfare did not create black dependency. Welfare created racial capitalism, or it created economic barriers, and self-reliance filled the gap. And honest discussion must center black women. In all discussion, we must have black women we must center black women with the economic reliance, because black women have historically maintained household. They have created informal economies. They have educated children. They have sustained community networks. And this is not dependency. This is structural resilience. When you look at culture, language, humor, fashion, these were not just art forms. These were psychological survival tools. Black culture stabilized black minds in a hostile environment, and that's why it spreads globally. Self-reliance produces culture, and culture produces influence. Many external narrative, whether academic, political, or even diaspora-based, fail because they ignore historical context, fail because they remove systematic barriers, they they pathologize survival strategy. Okay? Now, despite the obstacles, black Americans continue to create businesses. Despite the obstacles, black Americans continue to build intellectual capital. Black Americans influence global culture. Black Americans shape political discourse, all while holding the lowest median wealth due to historical extraction. And that alone disapprove dependency myths. Self-reliance is always misunderstood. Why? Self-reliance is often confused with isolation, but black American self-reliance has always been collective, communal, interdependence internally, and this is African in nature. Some diaspora conversation misinterpret black American conditions without understanding Jim Crow, without understanding the redlining, without understanding mass incarceration, without understanding labor exclusion. And this is not malice. It is historical distance, but truth demands correction. So what black Americans demonstrate is this. You can build power even when denied access. You can generate culture even when erased. You can survive psychological under relentless pressure. And this is not weakness, but this is civilization strength. Racial hierarchies depend on one belief that black people need guidance. And self-reliance destroys that myth completely. Okay? The future is not separation. It is strategic independence with international unity. Education, narrative control, and economies. Now, I'll say this. Black people must invest intentionally. Black people must build internal institutions. Black people must reject deficit narratives. Black people must encourage diaspora truth-telling. So that to survive. You know? One of the most recycled accusation against black America is this, that welfare created dependency. And the claim is not only false, but it is strategically dishonest. To understand why, we must confront facts without emotion. Because when most welfare programs were first introduced in the United States, black Americans was either excluded, as I've said that back there. They were restricted, they were excluded from accessing them. And reality is that white people are the one who are living off the government back. They are living on these welfares. They are living on these debt cards, That's the reality. That is the reality. So mind to say that black Americans have developed a lot of things under pressure. Black Americans have developed humor under pressure. Black Americans have developed creativity under pressure. Black Americans have developed confidence under pressure. Black Americans have developed identity under pressure. And this is not accidental. This is cultivated resilience. The zeal that FBS, the zeal that black Americans have, it is shocking to me. Sometimes I look at them or I read about them and I'm like, wow. Because if it's other community, they just break easily. Still on the plantation, other communities could break easily. They go, they disappear, they being erased. But black people survived against all odds. And now they're the leaders of the states. Now they're the leaders of the culture. Now they are the leaders of innovation. Without them, other communities feel like they are no more. We need to give them the flowers. We need to give the black Americans them flowers where it's due. They have gone through a lot. That's just to make sure other communities are living well off, to make sure Latinos are having it good, to make sure African immigrants are having it good. Even when Somalis are out there creating this noise and circus and everything, it's because of black Americans. The rights to speak, the rights to protest, the rights to create these all memes against the president is because of black Americans. They have fought for this. And their resilience, their zeal is what challenges external narrative. Because we have all these narratives that from external, oh, they are poor, they are not like this, they are lazy. But against all odds, black Americans are there. I'll say what? Like, they spend like, they have the spending power like 1.7 trillion US dollars spending power. They are the one who are fueling the economy of America. So despite all these lies that came over, black people are still there and they're still standing strong. So what we need to do as black people, we need to teach our children the real history, our real history, so that they do not be gaslighted out there to be told that you are like this, you are like this. No. They need to know that they are the children of kings and queens. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Until next episode, peace out.